Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to have the last side-by-side of beer number 1 and beer number 2 in my 2-hop series featuring Cascade and Centennial. Now, I did do a single review for each one, and I know a little bit ago I said, let's let them go out on their own. I'm just curious. I have to do it. So I'm going to set these off. So as you can see, hopefully this is beer number 1. This is beer number 2. And I'll kind of set them off over here, right there. And we'll just look at both of them. So what is the difference between these two? Well, they're using the same malt, 2 pounds, 4 ounces of 2-row. Then for the hops, they're using the same hops, but we're switching them. So beer number 1, both of them are a 60-minute boil. Beer number 1 is using Cascade, 0.25 ounces of Cascade at 60 minutes, 0.25 ounces of Centennial at 10 minutes, 0.25 ounces of Cascade at 5 minutes, then 3 days into fermentation, dry hop with 0.25 ounces of each. And beer number 2 just flips that. So we're going 0.25 ounces of Centennial at 60, 0.25 ounces of Cascade at 10, 0.25 ounces of Centennial at 5, then 0.25 ounces of each 3 days into dry hop. So really the only thing that's changing is the hops. If anything, I would say beer number 1 has the better head. Beer number 1 was bottled on 8.8 and is 6.73%. Beer number 2 was bottled on 8.11, which is 5.74%. So we're dealing with almost a full point difference in these two. I'm not sure why. Aeration, maybe. Beer number 1 had more aeration. I do put it into the sink and stir and stir and stir until it gets down to a temperature I think is right. So maybe beer number 1, I did that longer, which introduced more air into it, which helped fermentation. As you know, some people have bottle or wands to put oxygen into your beer. As when you boil it, it's taking that oxygen out, so you want to put it back in there. Maybe the mash temps are off a little bit. I am doing this on the stove, so I stick it in the oven for an hour at a certain temperature. So maybe I shut it. Usually I shut it off at 30 minutes left into the mash in. So maybe it held temp just a little bit longer, so we got more sugars in beer number 1. We could go on for days. So for the head, I would go with beer number 1. It is a tiny bit older, but I think it has more of a head like a beer should. For the color. Beer number 1 is more yellow, like a lighter yellow. Beer number 2 is more golden. That could be from the oils in the hops. Maybe the Centennial has a little higher oil count, which is giving us a darker color. So that is something we should pay attention to in the end. And we did kind of see that in my Chinook pellet hop versus leaf hop. The leaf version had a little bit more, so maybe the oils were a little higher. Let's go ahead and smell. They're pretty much the same. If anything, I think the malt comes out in beer number 2, which would probably lead to the ABV being lower. I think if they were, right? Yeah, I think if they were both the same alcohol level, I think that the smells would be similar. The beer number 2 smells like it has a little bit more sweet malt in it than beer number 1. Like beer number 1 smells drier. Like they still have that same like faint floral citrus smell, but it's like dried, almost like a brut in this one, where this one has that sweetness in it. Yeah, it smells sweeter. So for the smell, I wouldn't go with either one because that floral citrus, it's not a big enough smell for like an IPA. Even a pale ale, I think would have more smell than these do. But 4 months old, what do you expect? Let's go ahead and taste. Same profile, a little floral with some citrus. This one tastes drier. Like my mouth's dry after I drink it. This one has a little bit more sweetness, a little wetter on the palate, not as dry. Um, this is hard. If I had to pick, I would pick beer number one. Just for the simple fact, I think because it's a little drier, those hops come out just a little bit more, where this kind of has a sweet malty aftertaste. So if you're into that, you would probably pick beer number two. I don't like brutes, but I think because of the dryness, this beer still has more of a hop profile than beer number two. I would say both beers are not balanced very well. It needs more like darker malts, like a caramel malt or something else. Now we're talking about a beer that's 4 years old, or 4 years old, 4 months old. So it is going to start going down. You probably wouldn't want to let this beer sit more than 2 months. But yeah, overall, I would probably have to go with beer number one. Um, so if you've ran a test like this, let me know. Check out some more videos over here. And until next time, happy brewing.